Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. And so let's go ahead and get started. Going into the do now. Go ahead and prepare your resources for today. You need something to write with, you need paper, and you need dictionary.com pulled up. You do not need a Midsummer Night's Dream because we are done with the story. How exciting. So we have finished our first Shakespearean story, and now we're going to be moving into sort of writing, preparing us for ninth grade. And we'll do that through a variety of text, short stories, poems, and other types of literature for the remainder of the 5 weeks of school. So go ahead and take about 30 more seconds to gather your resources for today. Okay, so today's objective is students will be able to understand the concept of tone versus mood and the effects that they have on literature. And so I chose to start off with this because I noticed in class, the last time we were in person and I brought up tone and mood, we were not all quite sure of what tone and mood were. And most of us were not sure what diction was. And so this is something I want to definitely make sure we cover before we go into high school because it's super important that you understand tone and mood, and then tomorrow, diction as well, when you are reading literature. So, we're going to go ahead and start off as usual with some vocabulary. And so, I do want you continuously practicing those dictionary skills. And so, your word for today that you're going to be defining is multitude. Again, that word is pronounced multitude. I'm going to give you 1 minute to look it up and write it in your notes. Remember that on Mondays, you are allowed to submit all of your notes from the week before for extra credit. And so it's best that you take notes today instead of rushing to watch all of the presentations on Monday. And you can just save them and submit them all to me once on Monday. Take about 30 more seconds to look up the word multitude and write it in your notes. Okay, and so moving on, what I want to do now is I want to get into something that we're going to be doing every day now, which is a grammar workshop. Because you are going to be preparing for writing, I want to make sure that you understand like the mechanics of writing as well as some revising and editing. So we're going to be doing grammar and then revising and editing every day. And it'll be just something different every day or every week for you to practice. And so today's grammar workshop, we're going to be covering nouns. And so, what you need to know is that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. Go ahead and write that down. A noun is a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. So, for example, say you have a sentence that says, the girl went to the mall to buy a sweater. So, this sentence in particular has quite a few nouns. And so, I want you to take a moment to write this sentence down and underline what are the nouns that you see in this sentence. So, whether it's a person, place, thing, or an idea, go ahead and underline those nouns. And so you should have gotten a total of 3 nouns here, girl, mall, and sweater. So we know that girl is a person, mall is a place, and a sweater is a thing. And so those are our 3 nouns in that sentence. If you didn't get them all in the first try, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and try one more example. The world would be better if people showed more love. And so, knowing that a noun again is a person, place, thing, or idea, go ahead and underline your nouns for this sentence. And so you should have gotten world, people, and love. So love is an idea, and so it's going to be considered a noun in this sentence. Go ahead and check your answers and make any corrections if you need to. And so, continuing with nouns, there are different types of nouns, and we will be exploring those as the week goes on. But today, what I want you to focus on is common versus proper nouns. So, a common noun is basically something that's general. It's a person, a place, or a thing, but it's very general. For example, you'll say city, or girl, or my teacher, or the store, the restaurant, a drink, a country. Those are common and very general, and so that's why they're called common nouns. A proper noun, however, is a specific or special person, place, or thing. And so that's when you take those general nouns and you give them an actual title. For example, instead of saying a city, you would say New York, or you would say far. Instead of saying girl, you may say Kate. Instead of teacher, Miss Smith. Instead of store, you would say Walmart or HEB. Instead of restaurant, you would say McDonald's. Instead of drink, you would say Coke or Pepsi. And instead of country, you would say Mexico or United States. And so when you make it specific and you give me that actual title, that's what makes it a proper noun. Let's try some on our own. So I'm going to give you a list of common nouns, and you are going to, on your own paper, change each common noun into a proper noun. And so here are your 5 common nouns, and I want you on your own paper to change them to a proper noun that you know. So you have teacher, friend, state, restaurant, and car. I'll give you about 1 minute to convert those into proper nouns that have specific names. So, just for going over it, instead of teacher, and to make that into a proper noun, you could say Miss Evans or whoever your favorite teacher or teacher that comes to mind for you is. Instead of friend, you would then give the friend a name. So, for example, Nancy. That would make it proper. Instead of state, you would be specific and you could say Texas. Oh, I went a little too fast. You could say Texas. Instead of restaurant, you would give me the title of the restaurant. For example, Kiki's Tacos, which is my favorite place to get tacos in the Valley. If you have any other recommendations, I am always open. Thank goodness Kiki's is open during the quarantine because I eat there every week. So, yeah. Moving along, instead of car, you would be specific and you would say Mercedes or BMW or Volkswagen Jetta, like my car. And so that's how you would make those into proper nouns. That's going to conclude the grammar workshop. And so now I want to get into some revising and editing. So just a very quick lesson on revising and editing. Today in particular, we're looking at capitalization. And so capitalization is basically just when you use capital letters. And so it's important to know that you're going to use capital letters for the letter I. The letter I should always be capitalized. Think of it this way. You capitalize things when they are important, and you are important. So always capitalize the letter I when you're talking about yourself. You always capitalize the beginning of a sentence. So if you use a period, then you know your next letter is going to be capital. And then here you have names of people, places, and holidays, months and days of the week, and titles of books, games, programs, or people. So essentially, those last three stars, you capitalize proper nouns. You always capitalize proper nouns. So you don't have to capitalize the word teacher, but you do have to capitalize Miss Evans. You don't have to capitalize restaurant, but you do have to capitalize McDonald's. And so always capitalize your proper nouns. Let's try some on our own. So we're going to correct the capitalization in each sentence. For example, we went to Canada for the holidays. So take a moment and look at that sentence and tell me, where should we have used a capital letter? So hopefully you got this one correct, and you should capitalize the C in Canada. Why? Because Canada is a place. It is a country. And so the first letter should be capitalized. Let's try another one. My best friend used to be Jenny, but now it is Sarah. Where should we have used a capital letter here? And so you should have said that the J in Jenny should be capitalized. Just because Jenny is no longer your best friend does not mean that she's no longer a specific person or that she is no longer important. So the J in Jenny is going to be capitalized because that is a name of a person. And one more example, they wanted to get burgers on Tuesday, but I wanted to get tacos. So pay close attention here, and I want you to refer back to your capital letter chart here with Captain Capital, because you have two here that should be capitalized. And here's a hint, it's not tacos. As important as they are, it is not tacos. And so hopefully you caught on that you should capitalize Tuesday because it is a day of the week, so it is proper noun. But also you should have capitalized I because remember, you are important, so when you're talking about yourself, always capitalize that I. And so that's going to wrap up your grammar and your revising and editing lesson. Let's go ahead and get into our actual literary lesson for today. And so the literary device that I want to teach you about today is tone versus mood. So we get this confused quite a bit. And so let's just go ahead and clarify here using this very cute chart. Tone is the author's attitude expressed through the words they use. So the tone is like, what was the author thinking when they were writing this? What was going through their mind? Maybe how were they feeling even? But the mood, however, is the feelings that the reader gets from reading. So that's going to be, how do you feel when you read that? Sometimes the tone and the mood are going to be the same, but sometimes they may not be the same. It just depends on you, what you're reading, and the intent behind the literature. And so what I want you to do is I want you to make a little chart on your paper, and I want you to ask yourself, what are some words that we could use to describe tone? And then what are some words we could use when we're talking about moods? So what I mean by that is like, what are some different tones that an author might have when they're writing? And what are some different moods that you might have when you're reading? Take about 1 minute and just write down as many examples of tones and moods as you can on your paper. Remember, I want you doing this very detailed because you can, again, submit these notes on Monday for extra credit. So we're writing as many examples of tone and of mood as we can. So, some examples of tone might be sincere. An author can be sincere when they're writing. They can be disappointed, honest, enthusiastic, sarcastic, critical, soothing, nervous, serious, proud. And this is not like the only tones that an author can ever have. There are hundreds of different tones. Of course, you know the basic happy, sad, mad, jealous, and so on. But these are just some that you may need to see them in order for them to come to mind. So those are some examples of tone. As far as mood goes, you as the reader, you may feel hopeful, calm, mysterious, nervous, sad, gloomy, optimistic, happy, skeptical, and even empowered when you are reading something. And again, you're not limited to these moods either. We know that emotions are very complex as our feelings, and so you can have a variety of them when you are reading a piece of literature. Take a moment to pick some of these and write them down if you have not already. And so let's do some quick practice with tone versus mood before we're released for our independent practice for today. And so I'm going to show you a few sentences, and I want you to tell me what do you think the tone is, and then what do you think the mood is. So, what do you think was going through the author's mind and how they were feeling, and then how do you think the reader is supposed to feel, and how do you even feel as the reader when you see that sentence? So, going into our first one, I stood behind the door, listening to them discuss their plan, but I was not prepared for the voice that I heard enter the room. So, what do you think the tone here is? And what do you think the mood here is? Take a moment and jot down something on your paper. So, I think the tone here, and you may agree, is pretty mysterious. I think that the author was feeling very mysterious when they were writing this, and they wanted to kind of build up that suspense. And then reading this, one might feel curious, like, oh, who is the voice? What's the voice that entered the room? And we may even get a little anxious thinking about it, especially if it's something we've been reading and we know, like, oh my gosh, what if it's this character? We might feel a bit curious and anxious from reading that. It's okay if yours are not exactly like mine, but this is just to kind of show you like how you should be processing tone and mood. They should be along the lines. So you should not have anything like happy on your paper or delighted. It should be along the lines of mysterious, suspenseful, curious, anxious, however you want to have that. Next one. I blinked twice just to make sure it was real. I was not dreaming. The boy that I had loved since second grade actually called me by my name. So, what do you think the tone here is, and what do you think the mood here is? I blinked twice just to make sure it was real. I was not dreaming. The boy that I had loved since second grade actually called me by my name. So you can infer that, the tone here was probably romantic, nervous. That's probably how the author was feeling. The reader, on the other hand, may feel excited, like, oh, that's very sweet, happy for the person. Or if you're like me, you may find this actually pretty hilarious and you'll be humored by it. This is like exactly why I cannot watch romantic comedies because they are just too humorous for me in the worst way. And going on to our last example, you do not want to miss out on this deal. For just $10 a month, we can help you reach your dream fitness goals. So, what do you think the tone there is? How do you think the author is feeling? And then how do you think the reader is feeling? You do not want to miss out on this deal. For just $10 a month, we can help you reach your dream fitness goals. Take a moment and jot something down on your paper. And so you can just tell by the punctuation alone that like the tone here is excited and energetic. The author or the person speaking, they feel pretty excited about what they're saying and what they're pushing. However, you as a reader, this one just kind of depends on your personality. You may be excited too, like, oh wow, just $10 a month and I'll reach my dream goals. That's great. And your tone or your mood, I'm sorry, may match their tone. Or again, if you're like me, you might be kind of skeptical instead of excited. You might be like, $10 a month, what's the catch? Where are the hidden fees? This cannot be real. And so those are just some examples of how the mood and the tone can be very similar or very different. Just depending on what you're reading and again, like who you are. But I want you to kind of think, like, put yourself in the mind of the general reader when you're doing some of this literature so that you can make sure that, you know, you don't overthink it and you're going along with the author's intent. So, for example, when you're reading something romantic, if you're anything like me, you might not feel the happiest about it. You might instead just kind of be like, oh, this is very cheesy. But we know that the author's intent was to give you sort of that heartwarming mood. And so you're going to want to make sure you put that down on your paper. If you have any questions about this tone and mood, we're going to do a little more practice on our independent practice today, and I will be online to help you out. And so, that being said, your assignment today is going to be in the General tab, Assignments, and April 21st practice. And this is due tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Again, I'm online if you need help. The reason it's just going to be like a quick 10 question practice today is because I want to see if we're understanding this concept before I introduce a short story to you tomorrow and we kind of dive a little deeper into tone and mood and even start to look at the diction of it. And so do your best on this today so that I know it's okay to move forward with a little more of a detailed assignment for you tomorrow. As always, have an awesome day. Please, please, please reach out. I'm online until 4:15 p.m. and sometimes even later, which some of you know. And so just please reach out if you need help, and I will reply to you pretty much right away. Have a great day, you all.